Published under the slogan, "All There Is to Know About West Virginia," the West Virginia Encyclopedia is a great companion to West Virginia, a film history. This handsome keepsake volume is the perfect gift for West Virginians near and far. Order yours at wvhumanities.org or by calling the West Virginia Humanities Council at 304-346-8500.
Humanities Council, and with the major corporate support of Bank One.
What happened in the mountains as a result of industrialization is that mountain people very quickly moved from a relatively independent people who had a large amount of control over their own destiny and lives to a people who were increasingly dependent and whose lives were shaped by external markets and external owners. Appalachia essentially became a dependent society, dependent upon public work and cash income, and dependent upon absentee owners of the land itself. And we've been paying for that dependence ever since.
Tensions from the war continued to simmer in West Virginia during the summer of 1865. Former Confederates campaigned to have 2 northeastern counties rejoin Virginia. Local newspapers refused to use the word West in their mastheads.
Hang me if I say West Virginia. Maps may say what they please, but I say this is Virginia. George Bagby.
Hostilities increased when Governor Arthur Borman's government banned ex-Confederates from voting, teaching, holding office, or practicing law. The spirit of rebellion, said Borman, still reigns in their breast. Federal troops were sent in to keep the peace. As whites clung to old Virginia, Southern blacks welcomed its demise. Thousands of former slaves arrived in the Shenandoah and Potomac valleys of West Virginia, seeking a new life.
The condition of the Negro families in this vicinity is becoming alarming. Large families of women and children are being driven from their houses daily, and hundreds of them are now roaming over the country, begging for support. J.H. Duvall.
Can you imagine what this great internal migration might have been like for black people? When you have thousands of people simply walking the roads, people who have no food, who have no clothing, who have no money, the territory is hostile, the people around them are hostile, and they're trying to find some place to go. I'm not sure that we have a real appreciation for the difficulties of that experience, the horrors of it.
700 blacks crowded into a makeshift tent camp in Harper's Ferry. In the filthy conditions, diseases spread and infant mortality soared.
We have a colored population huddled together with almost nowhere to live and nothing to live on. Nathan Brackett.
Following the war, 29-year-old Nathan Cook Brackett was sent to Harper's Ferry by the Free Will Baptist Home Mission Society of Maine to open schools for ex-slaves. "We have the honor of occupying the ground," he said, "where John Brown made himself immortal." Yet Brackett found himself unwelcome.
People are exceedingly hostile to any measure that benefits the colored people, especially a school. Threats of violence have been made against anyone who attempts to establish a nigger school.
With help from black residents, Brackett set up a classroom in a federal armory building in Harper's Ferry and found space for 2 more schools in Martinsburg and Charlestown. He requested teachers be sent from Maine.
I am going to Charlestown to open a school there next week. The spirit that hung John Brown still lives, and the people are strongly opposed to schools for the freedmen. I go alone, but I trust the law and the Lord will shield me. Anne Dudley.
When teacher Anne Dudley arrived in Charlestown, white residents sent her death threats. 10 federal soldiers escorted her to school the first day, but Dudley insisted on living by herself in a remote cabin.
I keep a good axe and 6-shooter at the head of my bed at night, resolved to sell my life as dearly as possible, if need be.
Sarah Jane Foster, a self-educated Maine schoolteacher, was sent to Martinsburg. A shoemaker's daughter, Foster was a voracious reader who taught so she could afford to buy books. Like many other young Baptist women in the North, Foster had a missionary zeal to help newly freed slaves.
I mean to act so that none can find fault with me about setting up the colored people above their place. I cannot help liking them. Sarah Jane Foster.
In a cramped basement, Foster taught reading and arithmetic to children ages 6 to 18. At night, 50 adults crowded into her classroom, eager to learn as well.
We have been asked to believe that this race are only fit for chattels. A deeper, darker falsehood was never palmed upon the public.
Part of what we have to understand is that it was not just the benevolence of people who came in from somewhere else to do something for these people, that they were interested in trying to help themselves. And I would suspect that this stems from the great effort during slavery to keep blacks from the word, to keep us from being able to read. And so those people who were freed slaves and who came into West Virginia after the Civil War were very interested in trying to get schools started for their children, not only for their children, but for themselves, because many of them, as adults, wanted to learn to read.
Blacks raised $50 a month to keep the school open, but white residents fought to close it. Whites broke school windows, disrupted classes, and taunted Foster on the streets. When she asked male students to escort her home, townspeople were outraged.
Is it any wonder that Southern people treat these Amazons, who with brazen effrontery walk our streets with buck Negroes as gallants, with deserved contempt? Spirit of Jefferson.
It is not the refined and wealthy who are the most bitter, but the lower classes. As one of my pupils remarked, 'Tain't them that used to own servants that's so hard on us, but them that never had none. Sarah Jane Foster.
The bloodhounds are all loose. They have attacked our evening scholars several times lately, and they are threatening to burn our houses. Nathan Brackett.
Under pressure from church officials, Brackett was forced to dismiss Foster. Two years later, the Free Will Baptists opened Storer College in Harper's Ferry for the training of black teachers. Nathan Brackett was named president, and Ann Dudley appointed to the faculty. That year, Sarah Jane Foster contracted yellow fever while teaching at a freedmen's school in South Carolina. She died a few weeks later at the age of 28.
Behind the mists of ruin waved the calico dresses of women who dared. After the hoarse mouthings of the field guns rang the rhythm of the alphabet. W.E.B. Du Bois.